Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today I'm going to familiarize myself with a backhoe on this new TYM 574 tractor. So the things I want to accomplish today is take the backhoe off the tractor, put it back on. The next thing I want to do is cycle this backhoe through all of its functions and compare the operating speed and how smooth it is and how much power it has to the other tractor backhoes that I've used in the past, and also obviously any mini excavator experience I've got. So I did read the instruction manual and it gives you the steps, but I think if I'd never done one of these before, I would have trouble getting anything done based on those instructions. I'm a much more visual learner. And so the best thing I've found to show this is Tony's Tractor Adventure doing it on a different tractor model. So the first thing we want to do is start the tractor so we have use of the hydraulics. I can drop this outrigger down and climb up on the machine. Man, does that sit a lot higher than I'm used to. Now I'm going to drop the other outrigger. And not really lifting the tractor, but just putting a little bit of down pressure. And then actually before I got up here, I should have pulled these pins out. And I say pins, I mean this one here, which controls the swing. So we're gonna swing it sideways just enough to take the pressure off. It has a pin under it, and that'll pop out. And we have a second pin right here, so we'll raise the boom back, and that should pull out. Now we have control of the boom. So at this point, we're going to make the stick be straight up and down. I believe this is the boom and the lower arm is the stick. Sometimes I mix those two up though. And we're going to set our bucket flat on the ground with the boom level. And this is a position where the backhoe is going to hold itself. Now what we've done is stabilize the backhoe so it can stand on its own without being supported by the tractor. Now that we have it stabilized, we're going to pull two more pins. So right here is a pin that has a clip on the bottom. We'll pull the clip and then we'll pull the pin out. The way these tractor backhoe works is you have a frame that slides up under the machine into a subframe, and it's held by the subframe like this, and dropping those two pins in behind that frame just keep it from pulling out. Now that those pins are out, we can drive the tractor forward and leave the backhoe standing where it is. We do not want to disconnect our hydraulics yet. We're going to drive the tractor forward until the tractor and the backhoe are separated from each other, but not so far that the hoses are jerking the backhoe. At this point, the backhoe and the tractor are only connected to each other by the hoses. The backhoe frame is completely separate from the tractor. Now, if I just wanted to hook it back up, I would just drive backwards. But we're going to pretend that I'm leaving this here for a while, and we're going to set it on the ground using the levers. Now it's just a matter of removing these two hydraulic hoses like you would any other hydraulic hose. And I like to relieve the pressure, hydraulic pressure in those. Normally I would even say cycle the backhoe controls, but I didn't think to do it. Loop the hoses over, and we can now take the tractor and use it. So before we hook it back up, I'll just show you a couple things to make it easier to understand what we're dealing with. So as I already mentioned, this entire frame runs back up under the tractor, and you've got little tabs here that are deflectors that kind of guide it into place. You got the same thing up there. And all of this supports the weight of the backhoe rather than having it supported by the 3-point. So this plate right here slides into these spots right here. So when you're hooking this up, what you want to do is make sure that this plate right here slides into the brackets right here. The pins that go right here hold it from sliding back out. So now we have to repeat that process, but do everything in the reverse order. So we will back up close enough that the backhoe is under the tractor, but not to the point that it can't go past those lifting points. So you can't back all the way under it. You back about 2/3 of the way over top of the backhoe frame, and then we'll hook up the hydraulic hoses, and we have to raise the backhoe up to a point that it's level and at the right height to drive back into it. I've shut the tractor off again. I like to connect hydraulic hoses with the tractor off. I'm also cycling the loader joystick to relieve hydraulic pressure. Now we're going to plug these two lines back in. So now we have supplied the backhoe with hydraulic power again. Start the tractor up and start lifting the backhoe up with a combination of the outriggers and the boom. So now I've lifted it up the way I need to, but it kind of shifted off center. And that probably happened because I'm on a hill, and I intentionally parked on a hill to do this. It's not a steep hill, but it's a little bit, just because we're not always going to have perfect scenarios for our removal and installation process. So I'm going to try to rotate the backhoe using the boom. Well, I'm off center by about 8 inches. Let's see if I can fix it from there. I don't know if I can or not. Okay, no matter what I did, it would be just a little bit off one way or the other. Maybe with a little practice, I would get better at that. And I could edit this video to make it look like it worked the first time, but I have no interest in making it look easier or harder or anything compared to how it was. What I would tell you is, what I've learned so far is that when you back up over it, you need to be perfectly square with the tractor. Back up over top of it, look down it. Is it perfectly square? Is it evenly spaced between the wheels? If it is, then start your process. If it's not, drive forward and do it again. I think I'm more square this time. I also think I was square. I might have been square enough last time, but I'm on a slope, and I think the backhoe slid sideways a little bit. So that's my first time putting a TYM backhoe on. It was a lot more difficult than my John Deere backhoe. I've done a few other brands, or watched a few other brands, and the John Deere is a revolution to me. And I've raved about this tractor you got to be honest and give credit where it's due. One specific thing, that 2038, the backhoe was just so easy. And when I did this before, we had 2 people and we didn't have near as much problem. So I made it more difficult with a couple things. One being on that little bit of an incline. The other is not having a second person to tell me when I'm lined up so I don't have to get in and out of the tractor so many times. The LS 357 backhoe process was very similar, and what he did different was the instructions say that once you back away from the backhoe, you set it on the ground and then disconnect the hydraulics. What he did was back out from under it, then block it up at the exact same height that it was so that it couldn't move. And when we went to back onto it, the height was already correct. Is that better? I don't know. It's not my place to say. Everyone can make their own decisions. That's what the other guy I did this with did on his LS. Something else, it felt like that main plate on the backhoe that goes into the back of the tractor next to where the drawbar would be, it felt like it was lined up perfectly and it just wouldn't slide. I thought a little bit of grease right there probably would have taken a lot of hassle out of this, but it's done now. Maybe next time I take this off, which will be soon, maybe next time I take it off, I'll grease it. And now let's operate the backhoe and see how I like the controls and the functionality and the amount of reach and all that. All right, so can the outriggers lift the tractor? The outriggers have completely lifted the tractor. Now can the boom lift it? I heard some popping. Let's let it down a little bit so the outriggers currently aren't doing anything. See if we can lift. Oh yeah. And this is a heavy machine, and I don't have fluid in the tires yet, which I will, but this machine can move the tractor. Now with it being a cab, I can't really put it in neutral like I did my other tractor to roll it, but I don't need to figure that out today, I guess. Whoa, that's a fast movement right there. Wow, talk about, that jerks. And so I'm really thinking about how badly you do not want to run a backhoe like this off of a 3-point. I would never do this. Now, part of the reason it's bouncing is because I'm not using my outriggers. But you would never want to run this with a 3-point backhoe on a tractor like this. It's just too much torque. It's too much weight out the back, too much force. That's why we have these long outriggers or backhoe subframes and the support on the backhoe itself. Now see, if I'm moving like this, I can move it under control. The down function is a little bit faster than I'm anticipating. And at low throttle, it doesn't really want to do 2 boom functions at once. So as I come side to side, I can curl and I can dump. As I go up and down, as I go down, I can curl at the same time. At idle, it doesn't want to go sideways and up at the same time. So there's not enough hydraulic flow for 2 functions on the same lever. I do want to do a head-to-head comparison test between this one and mine to see how much difference the reach actually makes, how much deeper you can actually dig. I mean, it's clearly bigger. It's hard for me to put in perspective how much bigger. Now let's see what happens if I turn up the throttle, if I can then do multiple functions. I did not go to full throttle there. I went to half throttle. I don't think I'm probably ever running this at full throttle. So let's see if we can go sideways and down, up and sideways. It moves. These joysticks are a little bit more touchy than mine. I think you have control with these joysticks, but I think it's a matter of what I'm used to. See, I'm able to move nice and slow and under control when I think about it, but mine, require more travel to move the same distance. So I want to dig with it right now. I really want to, but it's just so wet. I don't really like digging in the mud just to make a mess that I have to deal with later. We're gonna get scoops from close to the ground here. Scoop of nothing. Let's scoop some of that up. Bring it over here. Set it down. So what do I think about this backhoe? I think it's going to be more powerful and more capable than what I'm used to. I'm excited to have it. Awesome piece of equipment. I've already explained that I think it's not as convenient to take on and off as my old one, but nothing else on the market is. Regardless, this is a TYM 574 with a BY 85 backhoe, and I learned something today, which is the goal. So I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.